Guys, I'm going to be doing another climate comparison video. Today I'm going to be comparing an Arctic climate with a humid continental climate. So, an Arctic climate would be the coldest northern climate technically, and then a humid continental would be the warmest northern climate technically. So, let me just see the colder climate first, which would be the Arctic climate, see what it's characterized by. I kind of want to see where it's found too. It's pretty interesting. The Arctic climate, it's probably found in the North and South Pole, probably. Let's see, the Arctic climate characterized. So, an Arctic climate has long cold winters and short cool summers and lacks precipitation technically. So in order to qualify as an Arctic climate, the winters have to average negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and the summers have to average around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 10 degrees Celsius. It has to have extreme seasonal changes in daylight, low precipitation, mostly in the form of snow, areas receiving less than 20 inches of precipitation per year, and coastal areas would receive more than that compared to the inland areas. Persistent winds, creating constant snowfall, extreme winds. And nearly all parts of the Arctic experience long periods with the same form of ice on the surface. Some parts of the Arctic are covered by ice year-round. And the dominant season in this climate zone is the winter, as there's 9 months of winter and 3 months of summer, and a few weeks each for spring and autumn. So it's way less distinct than a humid continental climate, basically. Yeah. Let me see areas that have it. Areas with, I'm guessing North Alaska would be part of it. I'm not sure. So Canada, Greenland, Russia, Alaska, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland have this type of climate. So I'm guessing like North Alaska, maybe North Canada, Russia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Iceland. And also Greenland has this climate too. Yeah. And it's not really that popular of a climate because, well, it's not really found a lot, this type of climate. It is a northern climate, yeah, keep in mind. I mean, there's a similarity, but we're going to talk about that later. Let me see summer temp average in Arctic climate. So the average, no, actually, no, let's do winter first. So the average winter temp in the Arctic climate is around negative 30 to negative 35 degrees Celsius, or negative 22 to negative 31 degrees Fahrenheit. With the coldest areas experiencing temperatures as low as negative 50 degrees Celsius or negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit during the winter months, which is pretty damn cold, not gonna lie. Yeah, and the lows are very extreme. More extreme than a continental climate, I'd say. Probably snows way more than a continental climate, too. Yeah. Let's see. So the average winter temperature is between negative 30 to negative 76 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty cold. Let me see in the summer. So the average summer temp in the Arctic climate is between 32 degrees to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's sort of similar to like a winter in the humid subtropical zone usually. If it goes warmer than that, then it would be a subarctic climate in the summer. If it goes below that, then I don't know. And usually in this type of climate, even in the summer, there's still a bit of snow because, well, it doesn't get that hot in the Arctic climate. Let's just be real. Yeah. So that's the. It's also technically the coldest northern climate, I think. Let me see. I might be wrong. No, it's not. What is it? No, it says Arctic. I'm right. Okay. So, Arctic would be the coldest northern climate as well, which is another interesting fact. Subarctic would be like in the middle between Arctic and continental. And then continental would be the warmest northern climate, technically. Yeah, that's the Arctic climate. And there's surprisingly a lot of areas with that climate. There's Russia, Greenland, Iceland, Alaska, the north part of Alaska, of course. Greenland, did I say Greenland? I think I did. And yeah, the dominant season in this type of climate is technically the winter, because obviously it's the Arctic climate, makes sense. And yeah, most of the year it's basically winter. Expect snow on the ground until like June probably, or July even. Well, June if you're lucky, you know. Yeah, the winter is basically 9 months, and then the summer is 3 months. There's only really 2 seasons in this type of climate. Less distinct than a continental climate, I'd say. And I would honestly say the most distinct climate is probably the continental climate, because it has the most distinct seasons out of all climate zones, I'd say. Obviously, because it's like a warmer northern climate, basically. So it distributes the seasons quite well, I'd say, compared to most climates. Let's see. Now let's see the humid continental climate, aka the warmest northern climate. Okay. So humid continental climate characteristics. So this type of climate has 4 distinct seasons, which is winter, spring, fall. Well, no, winter, spring, summer, and fall. And the summers are often either warm to hot, and they're often humid. Freezing cold winters. The average temperature of the warmest month has to be higher than 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The average temperature of the coldest month has to be below negative 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Personally, I would say if it goes below 27 degrees Fahrenheit as the coldest average winter low, then it's a humid continental climate. Yeah. So if it's 26 degrees Fahrenheit and below, then it's humid continental. In January. Yeah. So in this type of climate, snow can stay on the ground for longer periods of time than technically than a humid subtropical climate, but that's besides the point. We're talking about continental and Arctic climate. The summers are way warmer than the Arctic climate. I mean, summers could be similar to a subarctic climate sometimes in this type of climate. Precipitation has more precipitation. Usually found around North America and Europe, technically. The places with this type of climate zone would be north and central New York, most of Massachusetts, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont, most of Canada. Basically, most of the Northeast, basically, would have this type of climate. Well, it makes sense. This is a northern climate, yeah. I don't think the South would have this type of climate, because this is more of a northern climate. Yeah. Well, North and Central New York have this climate. South New York is technically subtropical. And also, I'm trying to think. What else about a continental climate? Let me see. Places with it. So, Midwestern United States like Minnesota, North Dakota, and Iowa have this type of climate. Most of the Northeast has this type of climate. East Central Europe, Northern China, parts of the Korean Peninsula, regions of Russia and Siberia. So, a humid continental climate is characterized by hot summers and cold winters, with significant precipitation throughout the year. Meaning, it basically has a lot of precipitation compared to Arctic climate. It has more distinct seasons than Arctic climate. It has more precipitation than Arctic climate. You get the point, yeah. Now let's see the average winter temps in humid continental. So in a humid continental climate, the average winter temp typically falls between below freezing, around 32 degrees Fahrenheit, with the coldest months averaging below 27 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, basically, the coldest average winter low has to be below 27 to qualify as a humid continental climate. So if it goes above 26 as the average winter low in the coldest winter month, then it's not a humid continental climate anymore, basically. It's a warmer climate. Let's see. It also depends on the location, technically. What's cool about this climate, though, is as significant temperature variation, it is also it's the climate with the most distinct seasons, I'd say. The humid continental climate. Which is also pretty cool. So there's also large fluctuations between the frigid spells and the milder periods. There's a very large temperature range in this type of climate, which is also pretty cool. So this climate is also characterized by a large difference between summer and winter temperatures. Snowfall, due to the cold winters, snowfall is common in humid continental climates. But I would say the snow lasts longer in the Arctic climate, obviously, because it's colder. Oh, wait. Did I also forget to mention this? Most of Massachusetts also has this type of climate, the humid continental climate. Well, except maybe like Boston, maybe. Let me see Boston's climate. No, Boston has a humid continental climate. Most of Pennsylvania also has this type of climate, the humid continental climate. Well, except for Philadelphia. Maybe. Let me see the summer temp average for the humid continental climate. So in a humid continental climate, the average summer temperature is typically around 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, with the warmest month averaging at least 22 degrees Celsius, 71.6 degrees Fahrenheit in the hot summer subtype. So usually in this type of climate, the summer is very mild, I'd say. Well, less mild than an Arctic climate, but no, I would say it's more mild than an Arctic climate. The average summer high tends to be in the 80s in this type of climate. 90s, well, it's kind of rare in this type of climate, but it could happen. And the lows tend to be very mild in this type of climate during the summer. Let me see the average summer low in Humid Continental. Let me see. Average high and low. So in a humid continental climate, the average summer temperatures are between the mid to high 80s during the day, and then the average lows dip to the mid 60s during the night in this type of climate. So usually the average highs and lows tend to be around the mid 80s to mid 60s in this type of climate zone during the summer. So very like mild kind of summer, maybe slightly hot, yeah. A key characteristic of this type of climate is the significant difference between the day and night temperatures, especially during the summer. So it could cool down a lot during the summer in this type of climate zone compared to warmer climates. But compared to an Arctic climate, I don't think it cools down that much, because obviously it's a more south northern climate. I don't want to say southern climate. It's technically a northern climate. Come on. Okay. Got that out of the way. Now let's talk about these two climates. So Arctic climate, differences and similarities between a humid continental climate. So Arctic climate would be less humid. It has less precipitation. What else? Has less seasonal variation than a humid continental climate. Has more cold streaks than a humid continental climate. Has more predictable weather than the humid continental climate. Has more snow than the humid continental climate. And so on, I guess, you know. Now, humid continental climate has more precipitation, more distinct seasons, more seasonal variation. Wait, did I say more precipitation? I think I did. It's a more popular climate zone than an Arctic climate. Has warmer summers than the Arctic climate, as Arctic climates tend to have colder summers, obviously. And honestly, it's probably the most distinct climate type in terms of seasons. It has the most evenly distributed seasons out of all climate zones, I'd say. What else? Most of the Northeast has this type of climate, the humid continental climate. North and central New York, well, most of New York has this type of climate. Most of Massachusetts, most of Pennsylvania, Maine, Vermont, Minnesota has this climate, Illinois has this climate, Ohio has this climate, Michigan. Yeah, a lot of states have this type of climate, basically. it's a very, very popular climate. Whereas the Arctic climate, honestly, is more rare than the humid continental climate. What else? What other states have this type of climate? I'm trying to think. Well, not state, but mostly Canada has this type of climate, the humid continental climate. Well, except the north part of Canada, that's a subarctic climate. But central and south Canada have this climate, the humid continental. As that is technically the dominant climate type in Canada. Wait, let me oh no, I don't think UK has this climate. Chicago has this climate, the humid continental. Whilst Alaska would probably have like a mix of like subarctic and Arctic, I'd say. Yeah. What else? About humid continental. Well, it has slightly warmer winters than the Arctic climate, as it is a more south northern climate, like I said, basically. And I think that's where it ends with like the differences. Similarities, okay. Both northern climates. Both snow a lot. Both are pretty cold, I'd say. What else? Both have their cold streaks, I'd say. What else? Let's see. Any other similarities? I would say both are one of the coldest climates. I'd say the humid continental and the Arctic climate. So Arctic climate is usually commonly found like north of central Canada. Continental climate is usually more commonly found north of South New York, basically. So basically, if you go more north, you're gonna see continental climate or Arctic climate, depending on the location. What else? I'm trying to think. Oh, humid continental climate has, let me see. What does it also have? Well, it has a longer fall and autumn season, I'd say. Well, fall and autumn are the same. It has a longer fall and spring season than a Arctic climate. And yeah, I would say both are pretty interesting climates. And, you know, I would also say that I would say honestly the humid continental climate might be more interesting because it has more distinct seasons than the Arctic climate, obviously, because considered the most distinct out of all the climates, I guess. Anyways, let me know what you think about the two climates. Anyways, peace.